Be the example you wish to see in the world. When I first started this, if you don't know my story, I was horrendously ashamed of the man I was. I was fat. I was a hypocrite of the highest order. I was disgusted with myself. Part of the reason that caused me to change was my children are my world. They are my everything. And because of the shitty decisions I had made, I wasn't able to play with them and look after them and be the father I wanted to be. I couldn't get down on the floor and play with them. I couldn't throw them. I couldn't chase them and climb with them the way I wanted. And it's why I have the firm stance, and as always, I got pushback on it, but I'm gonna double down and double down and double down on it, that you cannot be the greatest father you could be without being in great shape. You just can't. They're not mutually exclusive, and this is a point that I do want to clarify on that you are not a great father because you're in a shape, but you can't be the greatest father without being in great shape. They are separate identities. But I was failing my children. I was failing my wife. I was worried that, I was gonna die. And as I said, I was the height of hypocrisy. I was a personal trainer, well, still am, a gym owner, all these kinds of things. I taught people how to get into great shape for a living. That's what I did. And yet here I was, the walking and talking embodiment of everything I taught against. And it was fucking shameful. And so over 500 days ago, I started this journey. And I started talking on here, and I've documented and I've shared every step of this journey. The ups and downs and the wins and losses and all that kind of stuff as we went through it. And it hasn't been easy to constantly be here, and it hasn't been easy to not miss. But I promised myself when I started this journey that I was going to be the example of change of what is possible when you commit. I was going to be the example of what should be done and can be done and how we must elevate. I had grandiose ideas of who I was and could be as a father, as a husband, as a man. And to be brutally honest, I don't think I've even come close, not even close to reaching my potential, reaching where I want to be and the level that I want to stand at. But I am fucking light years ahead of where I was at that point when I started. And I did this, as I said, part of the documentation process was I wanted to create for you what I wish had been there when I'd started. I wanted to give you the roadmap, the blueprint, the example that I wish was there for me when I was at my lowest. I've spoken before, the amount of wake-up calls the universe gives you until you wake the fuck up and start actually listening is astronomical. And I had them all. That the universe was crying out for me to, be the man I should be, to lead by example, and the example I know I'm meant to be. But it took multiple situations, including a 5-day visit in Westmead Hospital with a heart condition for these kinds of things, to actually shake in and be like, hey, wake the fuck up and do what is necessary. But I think about this a lot of, like, as I said, being the example you wish to see in the world. And a lot of this is what that is. That the choices I make and the decisions I make are about being the example. The example I wish I had. And now I want to be that for other people. And it brought me back to this concept of, because there's introspection is required, and doubling down is required in this. As I said, I'm not nowhere near satisfied with where I'm at in this life, which is why introspection and constant reflection is so important. Because if you were to take, and this is the question I ask myself, and I think you should ask it yourself as well, if you were to take your habits, your actions, your thoughts, everything you do, and you gave it on a silver platter to someone else, and they executed it for 126 days, would that person's life be drastically different for the better? And if the answer isn't a resounding fuck yes, then the question becomes, why are you doing that? And I asked myself this question. And I think, as I said, I think it's one that you should ask yourself. And in some areas, yeah, I think it would be drastically different. If you took my mentality when it comes to exercise and the physicality and the discipline involved in doing those things, yeah, I think it would be. And then I looked at other areas like, and I have to be brutally honest with myself on this, when it came to business and the focus in other areas, no, I don't think so. Like, yeah, I might be better than average, but am I living up to what I want to get out of this? And that's part of this process that I call demanding greatness, is that you must keep reanalyzing where you're at. You must keep reanalyzing your life and looking at, well, the level that you're playing at and the effort that you're giving and the discipline that you're putting into it. As I said, on the physicality side, like, my workouts are great. They are. Could they be more intense? Possibly. And that becomes other questions that need to be asked. Yeah, there is quite possibly, actually. They could be even better. Just because they are really good and they were better than the last cycle doesn't mean that now I get to rest on my laurels. No, it means that I need to double down harder. That the whole point of demanding greatness is to constantly push your comfort zones. So yeah, my workouts are hard. Yeah, they create mechanical tension and they are difficult. But the most difficult? Pushing me outside of my comfort zone? Making me have to work through the mental discipline? Most of the time the answer is no. And to be honest, the days that it is yes, well, it's not actually about the workout, it's about, well, I revved the limits a little bit hard the day before, and I'm pretty fucking knackered. Like, I had one, was it yesterday? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. After basketball. So I'd played a full game of basketball the night before. And it had been a bit of a rough and tumble game. So I was a little beaten up. Not too bad, but my knees were a bit stiff. Landed on my hip once, so it was a bit sore. My back was a little bit, I took a shot to the back. It was a little bit, not 100%. And the way my programming had fallen that week was that it was leg day on Wednesday. And so here I am going, fuck. All right, now I got to do legs. That was deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And not something I wanted to do. Not something I enjoyed. But the uncomfortability came not from the choice, it came from the previous actions. And these are other areas where you need to start questioning them. That I find most of the time that, well, I'm so good at the workouts now. Not in an egotistical way, but as in, well, we're 528 days without missing a workout. I'm pretty good at fucking nailing my workouts. That I need to check in and start going, well, how can I push the intensity and the uncomfortability of it? And also, as I said, in what other areas can I test myself? In what other areas can I elevate so that if I gave my habits, my thoughts, my actions to someone else, that their life would be drastically better? Which, to be honest, is the whole point of demanding greatness. Is the whole point of me being here, is that I need to, what's the term? Be beyond reproach. That I need to keep pushing the standards so that I set the highest level of example, and hopefully that inspires you and something for you to aspire to be. That's the point of it, because I want to be the example that I wish I'd had. So within that needs to be that constant self-reflection. So, a lot of these videos come out as me just thinking, and getting these thoughts out there as I share this journey. And that, to be honest, this is one of them. This is not my best. This is not my best podcast. This is not my best one. But it's part of that self-reflection, and to be honest, and not that I like this as a word, but authentic with you, that I do need to evaluate where I am and how much effort I'm giving. And so this is one of those ones where I'm calling myself out on it. And I think that's one of the most powerful things you can do, is to have enough wherewithal in yourself to hold yourself accountable to those standards. That just because I'm doing better than Joe Blow down the street doesn't mean I'm actually doing a good job. I talked about this the other day when we were talking about, the dad bod, and how you need to be in great shape to be a great father. That average, to use my favorite phrase, the bar is on the fucking floor. And average is so low that doing anything remotely, just even slightly fucking taxing or difficult, puts you above average. It doesn't mean it's actually good. It doesn't mean you're actually doing a good job. Like the guy who was like, you're teaching your kids orthorexia, which, in case you weren't aware, is the obsession with healthy food. How fucked up is that's a thing? No, that's just called being healthy. That's it. It's just called being healthy. It's nothing special. It's nothing different. It's called being healthy. And it's exactly what we should all be. We should try to change the society and lead by example and be the example that maybe we should just be healthy people. That it isn't such an oddity to eat healthy and exercise frequently, that they decided to give it a name. That, you'll be judged and potentially questioned on your choices for being healthy. Be the example you wish to see in the world. And I think this is the most important thing you could ever do as a father, because you're going to be the example to your children. It's the one I come back to frequently. You'll be your daughter's first love and your son's first hero. What are you setting them up for in this world? Being that. That is the highest honor I feel that can ever be placed on you, is that. So what example are you setting for them? What example are you giving to the world? Is it one that, you're going to be proud of? Or is it one that we'll look back on in years to come and be like, damn, I wish I could have done better. I should have done better. Because these are the questions that, need to be asked. So that's all I have for you right now. And the question still remains. Are you going to be the example you wish to see in the world? Only you can make this decision. That's all I have for you. Until next time.